Have you ever dreamed of just, stepping outside your door and picking a perfectly ripe tomato, still warm from the sun? That dream of a garden just bursting with fresh food, it can feel like this huge, intimidating project. But I'm telling you, it's so much more achievable than you think. This isn't about having some magical green thumb. It's really just about learning to read the world that's right outside your window. So let's get you started on that journey.
And this is what it's all about. This is the payoff. I mean, can you imagine the burst of flavor from a strawberry you literally just picked, or the snap of a green bean that was on the vine 2 minutes ago? This isn't just about growing food. It's about a level of freshness and a feeling of accomplishment you just can't buy in a store.
And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The flavor of food that travels 10 feet instead of thousands of miles, it's just on a whole other planet. It's a difference you can actually truly taste. This is the why that's going to keep you going. That pursuit of incredible fresh flavor.
Okay, so we've got the why completely sorted. Now, let's get to the where. Before you even think about buying a single seed packet, your first job is to become a detective in your own yard. You've got to read the environment and really get to know the unique little world you're going to be working with.
Look, at the end of the day, every single plant, from a tiny little herb to a giant oak tree, they all need these 5 things: light, temperature, water, air, and nutrients. Think of them like the absolute fundamental building blocks. Your job as a gardener isn't to create these things from scratch, but to figure out how they already exist in your space and how you can, give them a little boost.
All right, here's a word you're going to want to know. Microclimate. It sounds super scientific, but I promise it's really simple. Your garden isn't just one big uniform space. It's actually a patchwork of tiny, unique little climates. They're created by things you already have, like walls, fences, slopes, even a big tree. Learning to spot these is like unlocking secret gardening superpowers.
And here is a perfect example of a microclimate in action. Just think about a brick wall that gets blasted by the sun all afternoon. It soaks up all that heat, and then all evening, it slowly radiates it back out. What does that do? It creates this warm, cozy little pocket. It's like a natural incubator where you can grow things that love the heat, like tomatoes or peppers that might otherwise struggle in a more exposed spot.
So that warmth is fantastic, right? But microclimates can also have a dark side. Air is always moving, both warm and cold. So you have to ask yourself, what happens when that natural flow of cold air gets blocked?
This is the problem. See, cold air is dense, and it literally flows downhill like water. If something like a solid wall or a really thick hedge gets in its way, that cold air can't escape. It gets trapped and it just pools in one spot. This creates what's called a frost pocket, and it is a death trap for tender plants. Seriously, identifying these spots is one of the most critical things you can do.
Okay, so speaking of airflow, let's talk about one of the most destructive and honestly overlooked forces in any garden: the wind. This is not just about a few leaves getting blown around. Wind is a powerful element that you absolutely need to learn how to manage.
The damage it does is so much more than just a snapped stem here and there. Wind physically dries out your plants and your soil. It's like it's sucking the moisture right out of them. It also lowers the temperature, which can stunt growth. And get this, it even makes it harder for bees and other pollinators to fly around and do their jobs.
So your first instinct might be to just build a big solid wall, right? Block the wind completely. Well, actually, that's one of the worst things you can do. A solid barrier just forces the wind to go up and over it, and that creates a vacuum on the other side. The wind then comes crashing back down in these chaotic, turbulent swirls that can cause even more damage than the steady wind did in the first place.
So this is the key takeaway, right here. You don't want to block the wind, you want to filter it. A solid barrier, that creates chaos. But a permeable one, something like a hedge or a slatted fence, it lets just a little bit of air through. That gently slows the wind way, way down, creating a much larger, much calmer zone of protection behind it.
So what's the best way to do this? Living windbreaks. Using plants to create that permeable barrier is just the ideal solution. Things like beech or hornbeam are classics for a reason. They grow nice and dense, creating a fantastic filter. And the bonus? They also provide a great habitat for beneficial insects. And let's be honest, they just look incredible.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the climate and the air above the ground, but now we need to look down. The soil beneath your feet is the literal foundation of your entire garden. Understanding it is not as complicated as it sounds, and it is the key to, well, everything.
So,
Let's get our hands dirty, shall we? This is the big question. And the really good news is you don't need some fancy science lab to figure it out. You can learn almost everything you need to know just by how it feels.
But before we do our little feel test, let me define one key term: humus. This is the good stuff. It's the dark, rich, kind of sticky material that's left over after organic matter, like compost and leaves, breaks down. It is the magic ingredient that helps soil hold on to water and nutrients, and it gives it that beautiful, crumbly structure that plants just love.
All right, here's your at-home test. It's super simple. Just grab a handful of your soil and get it a little damp. Now, if it feels kind of tacky and sticky, and you can easily roll it into a solid ball that holds its shape, you've got clay. If it feels really silky and smooth, but the ball's kind of weak and crumbly, that's salt. And if it feels gritty and won't form a ball at all, you've got sand. See? Easy.
You can really see the difference here, can't you? On the left, you've got that dense clay, which is great at holding nutrients but can get waterlogged. And on the right, that loose, sandy soil that drains really fast but can't hold on to water. But here's the amazing part. The secret weapon for both soil types is the exact same thing. Add lots of organic matter. Compost. For clay, it breaks it up and improves drainage. For sand, it acts like a sponge, helping it hold on to that precious water. It is the universal soil improver. And now that you know what you have, you know how to make it better.
All right, we've looked at the climate, we've looked at the wind, and we've looked at the soil. We've basically done all our detective work. So what now? Where do you actually start? Let's bring all this together into your first powerful, actionable step.
And listen, before you even think it, but I don't have enough space, let me just stop you right there. It does not matter if you have a huge backyard or just a tiny balcony, you can grow incredible food in containers, in pots, even in window boxes. The principles we just talked about, they're exactly the same.
This right here is probably the single most important piece of advice I could ever give a new gardener. Please do not try to go from zero to a full-scale farm in your first year. Start small, learn the ropes with just a few pots or one small raised bed. I promise you, success on a small scale is what builds the confidence to go bigger later on.
So, here it is, your 4-step plan, your roadmap. First, just watch your space. See where the sun is, where those warm microclimates are. Second, think about the wind and how you could gently filter it. Third, get your hands in the dirt and figure out what kind of soil you're working with. And finally, the most important step of all, start small and just enjoy it.
You now know more than enough to get started. You have the framework, the knowledge to understand your own unique space and to work with nature, not against it. So the only real question left to answer is, what delicious thing are you going to plant first?